The 5 costly mistakes founders make online can severely limit a ton of new opportunities for their business. These 5 mistakes can also make connecting with new clients and partners impossible. I've worked with founders, public figures, entrepreneurs, and other business people for 15 years, and I've ghostwritten books for some of them too. I see the costly mistakes they continue to make online, and if you're a founder or entrepreneur, I'm here to help you to avoid making these mistakes again. Let's do it.
It's a dirty truth for Deante Young.
This is one of those pet peeves that I have, is that there are so many mistakes that founders make online. And when I say founders, I mean anyone that's created something, whether it was a business or just being a creator or anything. And when I think about that, I think about my experience being a video creator, also a book writer and ghostwriter and things like that. But there's a lot of business people that have the same issues over and over again that they make. And I just want to go down the 5 costly mistakes that founders make online. Number 1, rarely sharing your hardships. I'm talking to you, founders, creators. So the negative outcome of rarely sharing your hardships, your dirty truth, your setbacks, your challenges, is that it limits being relatable to potential clients. So why is that bad? It's because anytime you talk about a client or any potential lead, we all know that they do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And it's kind of hard to gain trust when you're covering up some part of your journey. And I know that a lot of us, we don't do it on purpose or intentionally, but the real truth is that it happens anyways, and that's a detriment. That's one of the main outcomes. So it limits being relatable to potential clients. And when I think about all the things that I've done, I've always made it a point to really just be very transparent in my journey. So when I talk about insecurities and when I talk about the things that just sucked over the course of time, it might be something that's embarrassing to talk about. Just talk about it, because perfection never creates connection. The second thing that is a negative outcome is trust and connection is harder to gain when you seem too perfect. And I can tell you something. I had a trainer who was telling me that when he read my first book, he began to really trust me because he saw the way that I just really went and became very transparent, very vulnerable. And he said that because of that, I feel like I can trust you because you did not seem perfect. And I think that's an asset. And so for any of you founders, any of you creators, if you're thinking about, oh, I'm going to look weak or I'm going to look small because I'm talking about how I had 10 followers for the longest time, it's okay, because that's relatable. You always want to be relatable to people. So that's number 1, rarely sharing your hardships. I give you a great example of why sharing your hardships in your gritty story is a major plus. So the hip hop industry, hip hop is a perfect example of why this is bad. You guys obviously have heard of the great Eminem, Marshall Mathers, my guy. So the reason why Eminem resonated so hard with his audience when he first hit the scene is because he was very authentic with his hardships and he spoke the language of his audience. That's why he was always talking about how much his baby mama sucked, how much he wanted to kill her, and all of these types of things. That was him connecting. He was sharing his hardships and his dirty truth. Also, he was talking about his mom. His mom was a jerk. He couldn't stand his mom. He made songs, Cleaning Out My Closet. That's one of the major songs that completely and totally shot him up the charts. So Eminem was a master from the beginning of sharing his hardships. And hip hop in general is all about sharing hardships. And when he talked about, have you ever been hated or discriminated against? I have. I've been protested and demonstrated against. That's him sharing his dirty truth. That's him connecting with his audience because he knows his audience feel exactly the way he felt. When he talks about living in a trailer park, when he talks about having, he's tired of having the same blonde whore after work in the back of a contour, he understood that that's what people were dealing with, that he was speaking to. And that's why it's so important to share your hardships. Also, Tupac, the classic Me Against the World album, is a great example of knowing your audience and speaking their language by exposing your backstory. In Me Against the World, Tupac talked about death around the corner and all of these crimes that was being committed in his neighborhood, in his life, and all the things that a young black man would be faced with dealing with, poverty, struggle, not knowing where their next meal is from. That stuff was very resonant to the people that Tupac was speaking to. And that is exactly why you need to start to share your hardships. The second costly mistake that founders make online: not having a strong social media presence. Social media is basically the entertainment industry for everyday people and celebrities these days. There is no getting around it. You can talk about how you don't care about social media, but there's no way in heck that you can even compete if you're not on social media, if you do not have a presence. There are people who are in their 70s and 80s who have a presence on social media. Social media is not nearly as expensive as these big marketing companies spending money and billions of dollars for Super Bowl ads and things like that. So when something is free and you have other companies like McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Nike, they're on social media and it's free. If they are going to be on social media, then you better be on there. You know why? Because you don't have the budget to do what they do when it comes to big billboards or big major television advertising campaigns. So not having a strong social media presence is number two. So negative outcome one of that: your expertise, thought leadership, and priceless life experiences are non-existent on platforms that contain 5.2 billion daily users. That's billion daily users, which means that you lose a very valuable piece of real estate every single day. Why would you want to do that? And I see it happen all the time. I know multi-millionaire business people who have everything in the world when it comes to business in the real facing each other world. But online, their presence, if you didn't know them personally, you would just think that they were like the most non-worthwhile, inconsequential person there is. And I think that's a shame, because when you have expertise, when you have a story, a journey, a backstory, you need to really share that. So that's one of the main things that you have to deal with, the negative outcome. Negative outcome number two of not having a strong social media presence: your message misses out on an easy way to multiply yourself without being there 24/7, and also establish yourself on essential platforms. So why is that important? It's because when you have everyone in the world doing it, of the people that are doing it, and you're among the people that do not do it, that's a problem. And that's a problem that you don't want to have, because it's just too important, far too important to miss out on something that is largely free, and you can take full advantage of that. Another reason why not having a strong social media presence is bad is that not having content and automated systems set up will cost you time and earnings. And who wants that? That's just like having a company that has a free marketing agency, but you don't give it anything to market. Why would you want to do that when it's free? And I just see it all the time. I've made the mistake myself time and time again, and I had to come to realize that, hey, this is actually detrimental to me. So we have to start thinking in terms of what's the cost of not doing it? And then you'll start to really understand. The third costly mistake that founders make online is not having an educational email course set up. What is an educational email course? Well, in a nutshell, educational email course is something that can be used as a lead magnet. People can go to your lead magnet and get it in exchange for their email. And it's something that teaches them every day for 5 days through email some important thing about your business, about your company, about your offer, about your services. So negative outcome number one: you miss having a great lead magnet that provides high value to leads and potential clients and important information about your offerings. So that is one of the things that's horrible about not having an educational email course set up. Why would you want to miss out on that? You and your business are seen as being the same as everyone else who just simply have 10% off coupons as a lead magnet. You go to, let's say, JCPenney's, and you'll say, oh, it says enter your email address. And you're like, oh, I'm going to enter my email address because I can get 10% off my next perfume purchase or my next cologne purchase. Or they might give me 10% off if I enter my email in Pizza Hut. Oh, wow, I can get my next 10% off of pizza. Yeah, but who's going to really care about that? Does that really move the needle? But an educational email course is something that has value to it, and it feels even more valuable. It feels like you're getting something that should cost money. And that's why it's very important. I see it happen over and over again. I found out about educational email courses way back in 2023. And when I say way back, that's only 2 years. But I say way back because in the speed of the internet, 2 years is almost like 10 years under other circumstances. So I see so many people not have it. And I'm talking about people, whether you have great success with your business or great success with your services or your offerings, it doesn't matter. What I'm saying is that why not take advantage of these tools that are out there for us? And I have an educational email course for myself. It's selfpublishednonfictionbooks.com. And that serves me and that brings leads into my business. And I'm going to be setting up other educational email courses. So another negative outcome of not having one is you miss out on opportunities to show your understanding of the needs of your audience. And when your audience feels that you understand them, that goes a long way. You want to always be able to be seen as a company, a business, a person, a proprietor, as someone who can really get the audience. Like, you get how I think is what they want to feel that way. That's very, very important. The fourth costly mistake that founders make is ignoring the power of a leveraged book. What do I mean by that? Well, when I first got into writing books, I was really nervous because I had no idea exactly what to expect. And I thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. And I said, I don't know the first thing about writing books. I don't really know how to do anything from books. They say that you can make a lot of money from books, but I also wanted to have influence with what I was writing. And so once I got involved and started learning the ins and outs of having a book, I said, man, this is really cool. Then I start realizing the power of a leveraged book. And a leveraged book is a book that you're using to create opportunities. There's a really great saying by the great entrepreneur Myron Golden that says, sell something that sells something. And truer words have never been spoken. So when you have a leveraged book, the book is not meant for you to necessarily make sales from it. And that's what most people think. The book is really more to get a client. Another one of the great lessons from Myron Golden. And so it's very important when you have a leveraged book, what that means is you have links to your offer or links to courses or links to some type of live event or some type of online training in your book. So while people are reading your book and they're getting your knowledge for $15, $20, $30, $40 or whatever the cost of your book is, that's all well and great, but it's really to do something different. I remember when I was in life insurance sales, and I remember one of the managers had said, hey, I understand that you want to make sales and all this stuff. You got these leads, because they gave us free leads for life insurance potential clients. And what this manager, very successful manager, said, he said, the whole point of leads is not to make sales, it's to multiply. You want to multiply. And so that's why referrals were so very important in that. And who would ever think it? It makes all the sense in the world once it's said, but then you think about it before that and it never really crosses your mind. So the power of a leveraged book does that. You want to make sure that you have things inside that's going to be a way to extend the life of the customer, the client. And it also really goes far with showing who you really are. So one of the negative outcomes of ignoring the power of a leveraged book is that you lose a competitive advantage in the marketplace versus other founders that do have a book. So when you think of someone like John Maxwell, you think of someone like Tony Robbins, you think of someone like Brendan Bouchard, Russell Brunson. You might know who these people are. You might not know who they are, but they're all very, very successful, high-profile entrepreneurs, and they have books that show and teach and coach things. In the case of Russell Brunson, his book sells the ClickFunnels system that has made him millions and millions of dollars. So it's always to create a lead. the book sells something that sells something. That's a mantra that you really have to have. And I see so many people not having a leveraged book. So for me, I didn't even know that when I first got into the book business. But I tell you, over time, I realized that I was doing the book itself was leverage for me because it put me in front of opportunities to be able to be a speaker in order to, it put me in situations where I can get paid. It put me in situations where people would look at me and say, "Oh, wow, you did this book. Hey, can you do a book for me?" And it was something that just really took me far. Just being able to say, "Wow, I have a book." So now that puts me in a different category of person. Don't ever get fooled into thinking that books are dead or that books are something old school because of all the new technology. So there's really nothing ever new under the sun. You've heard that expression, but the truth is that a leverage book does wonders for you. So another thing that is a negative outcome of not having a leverage book and just ignoring the power of a leverage book is that your expertise could be questioned because you lack the respect that a book still affords you as a founder, as an entrepreneur, as a CEO. Because, like I said, you got all these other people you've heard of and people you've never heard of, that are making a killing and are being very influential across many spectrums just by having a book. So even if you are very successful and you don't have a book that's leveraged, it's easy to get lost in the shuffle because you're not among the people that do have a book. So people can look at you, and even if they don't think it or say it subconsciously, if you see one person with a book and you see another person who does not have a book, I feel like, what are you going to think about those two people? I feel like you're going to look at those two people, and just through human nature, you're going to feel like, well, the one with the book, I kind of view them differently. It's almost like in sports, if you see one player that's a superstar, but he doesn't have any championships, and then you see someone else that has one or two championships or however many championships, you automatically assume that this guy, he's like a greater player. And even though they may have the same level of talent, you don't perceive it that way. So that's another thing. You don't want your expertise to be questioned. So another negative outcome that comes from ignoring the power of a leveraged book is that, again, like I said, even for highly successful founders, not having a book could limit opportunities for new revenue streams, such as speaking and coaching. And I'm just going to always beat this dead horse. Tony Robbins has been doing this for 48 years, almost a half century. He's been coaching and putting on live events that have drawn so much critical acclaim. He has transformed lives. He's done all these things. And so much of that came from his book, Awaken the Giant Within, and so many of his other books. He has so many books, just like John Maxwell, just like Brian Tracy. So many of these people, they have books that they use, and it brands them as this is the go-to guy. And that kind of becomes the embodiment of what they represent. So you never want to be in a position where your expertise is questioned, because there's just so many people that need what you have to offer. And it's always great to be able to share this stuff and tell it in a very, very brutally honest way. Your backstory is so important. So the fifth costly mistake that founders make is not having a consistent on-demand audio visual presence. That's huge. That is huge. I don't know if you guys realize this, but this is 2025. 2025. Now that might sound sarcastic, that might sound condescending, but it's just being honest. It is 2025. And because it's 2025, things don't function the way they used to function, where you can just opt to just be on social media or not. But not anymore. So not having a consistent on-demand audio-visual presence is a massive, costly mistake. The negative outcome from that, number one, potential leads and clients can't search for you in podcast or YouTube databases. And just so you know, there are over 584 million monthly listeners worldwide of podcasts. 584 million. Let that sink in. On top of that, YouTube has over 2.7 billion monthly active users. And when I say billion, I mean billion with a B. They have 2.7 billion monthly active users. What does that mean? That means a whole lot. When you have that type of place where so many people gather, there's already customers there. They already have access to their credit cards and their debit cards and things like that. People don't like to be sold. They like to be educated, and then they'll buy when the offer is right for them. So YouTube and podcasts, the whole podcast space is rapidly exploding at levels that we can barely comprehend. So when you do not have a consistent on-demand audio-visual presence and you are an expert or a founder, an entrepreneur, a thought leader, it's criminal. It's criminal to not have that, because people, they can't search you in podcasts or YouTube databases. You can go right now and you can type in Deante Young. You can go and type in The Dirty Truth with Deante Young, this very podcast that you're watching or listening to, and you'll be able to find me with ease. You can go on YouTube and you can find me. So even if you're like so-called small potatoes and you don't have a massive following, you don't have like this unbelievable level of viewership or anything like that, it doesn't matter. The bottom line is that you will be searchable to somebody. Even if you have 3 subscribers, you can actually get people to still come into what you have to offer, what you have to say. And when I say this to you, I'm really saying it to me. Actually, I'm saying it to we, you, me. I'm a founder. I'm the founder of Dirty Truth Publishing. I'm the founder of Visionary Voices. And whether you create something officially or not, whether you're the official owner of a company or you just have something where you have an offer, you're still a founder. Think about it. Jay-Z, he's the founder of companies, but he's also the founder of his expertise. He's the founder of the thing that got him where he is. Eminem is the founder of his entire career, and his career has been excellent. So when you are on YouTube and you're on podcasts, think about this. People that are Hollywood stars that can easily be in major motion pictures, that can easily be on world stages, they still go and do podcasts. Will Smith, one of the most famous people that's ever lived, does podcasts frequently. You'll see all these people. Kevin Hart has a podcast network, and Kevin Hart doesn't even need that because he has the power of mass media, major mass media to promote him and to disseminate his message. And yet he's still on YouTube. Yet he still is on podcasts, his own and other people. Lance Armstrong has a podcast, and Lance Armstrong is a former professional athlete. And it just goes on and on. LeBron James has a podcast. He can go on television anytime he wants, something that none of us can do. We can't just go on TV when we want to, but someone like LeBron can. So why is it that you do not have an active, consistent, on-demand audio-visual presence in the podcast world? YouTube. That's problematic. So negative outcome number 2 for that. It's like having an important division of your company shut down with potential leads banging on the window, hoping for a response. Again, this is all stuff that I'm doing little by little, and sometimes faster than little by little, because you don't want to be irrelevant in this world, especially as someone who's a founder, especially as someone who can change the world. Like I said, your story, your backstory is so extraordinarily important. And combining that with your presence on a daily basis, even if it's not on a daily basis with you being there, you have, video and audio that will be able to just be there whenever someone wants it, whenever someone needs it, whenever someone stumbles across it. So you can be somewhere sleeping and they still get you. You can be somewhere out of the country and they still get you. That's powerful. So we really need to focus in on having that. But that's such a costly mistake that I see people have that are founders, major business people, billionaires. Elon Musk is the richest man in the universe. And yet he has a social media presence and he has a consistent on-demand audio visual presence. And if you don't believe that, just go and look at X, the former Twitter. Just go and look at that. He was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and that's like the most visible you can get on a podcast in this country currently. So why would Elon Musk go on a podcast? You would think that would be beneath him, right? He's a multi billionaire. But that's the way of the world in this day and age. It doesn't matter how big of a business person you are. It doesn't matter how big of a movie star you are, television star, professional athlete. You need to have a consistent on-demand audio visual presence. And if you don't, shame on you. So the third negative outcome that comes from not having one is your growth is severely capped by not being a part of the wealth of global attention that a consistent on-demand presence brings. Think about that. It's capped. It means that whatever deals you make in the brick and mortar world, when you go out and you have dinner with someone, that's all well and good. You congratulations, you're doing a great job. But it's capped because there is like a whole pocket of people that don't know you. Now, of course, no matter where you are, people are not going to know you. Some people won't know you and some people will. But it's a complete different story when you just don't have anything at all. I have a client that his social media is basically non-existent. On LinkedIn, no content. On YouTube, he's got a lot of videos that are not leveraged. And he's my client for something different. But all of those things he probably sees as not a big deal because it's not like it really affects his lifestyle. And, I'm sure he thinks it doesn't affect his lifestyle. And truthfully, it doesn't actually affect his lifestyle because he is an extraordinarily successful, financially set individual, but he's so influential. He has so much to give in terms of knowledge and philosophy and worldview and perspective that there's so many people that he's missing out on. So this is not about the money he has or the money he doesn't need. This is about his influence. This is about scaling your influence, scaling your personal brand, scaling your life experiences, your backstory, your hardships, all the things that suck to talk about. It's about all those things. I'm going to say it again. Your growth is severely capped by not being a part of the wealth of global attention that a consistent on-demand presence brings. That's Facebook, that's YouTube, that's podcasting, that's Instagram, that's LinkedIn, that's Twitter, that's X, that's all of these places. TikTok is a global phenomenon. And people are scaling their influence, they're scaling their presence. I'm still at the very beginning of this, but I have written and published 9 books, and I'm in the middle of working on a 10th book, and quite frankly, an 11th book for someone else, 2 other people. And the people that I've coached in doing books, they have established themselves in their own way, in their own right. One thing that is important to understand is that all of us are content creators. All of us. Because the things that we do, even if you just go to work and you work a 9-to-5 job, you're a content creator. I worked at Cleveland Clinic once upon a time, and working at Cleveland Clinic, I was a patient service representative level 4. And so what that meant in a nutshell was I would schedule things for patients virtually. and they would get things done. So every experience I had and the types of things that I would say to these patients, because I'm always good with relating with people and really having a conversation that is worthy of their time and my time as well, and it would uplift them and myself. That was content. I could have repackaged that and just talked about why it's important to show up a certain way when you're dealing with people in the medical field, when you're dealing with patients that are dealing with things that are probably horrible and disastrous. That's something that could have been content. It is content. So we're creating content with every action that we take. So never think of yourself as not a content creator, because again, we are creating content with every action we take. The only difference is some of us will publish it online or we won't, but either way, it's still content. So again, those are the 5 costly mistakes that founders make online. Number 1, rarely sharing your hardships. Number 2, not having a strong social media presence. Number 3, not having an educational email course set up. Number 4, ignoring the power of a leveraged book. And number 5, not having a consistent on-demand audio visual presence. I don't know about you, but I feel like it's very necessary and it's very, very important to have all of those things. Those are the costliest mistakes you can possibly have. But all is not lost, because I'm here to help. Always here to help. You can always email me, dy@deanteyoung.com. My challenge to you is to see how many of those 5 costly mistakes that you as a founder, you as a creator, CEO, entrepreneur, business executive makes. If you're making any of those mistakes, see if you can erase one, just one, and then go for the next one. And hopefully you're only making one or none. But it's very important. In this day and age, we are all content creators. And that is the dirty truth.